Welcome to In Doug's Garden, brought to you by the Davey Tree Expert Company. Thanks so much for taking time away from your garden to come see mine. I sure appreciate it. Now today, I've got a question about small trees. I'm going to give some suggestions there. I'm going to show you a really unique deer-resistant shrub. And right now, we're going to visit a very special garden that's themed around the Bible. Now do me a favor, click on the subscribe button. It helps the channel. I'd appreciate it. All right, let's go take a look at that garden. Tell me how this garden got started.
This garden started in 1986 under the view of Irene Jacob, the wife of our Rabbi Emeritus, Walter Jacob. They wanted a place where people could come and see a vision of peace and history in the Bible.
And tell me about the construction with the river that flows through here.
The water feature in the middle is a representation of the Dead Sea on this side, the Jordan River, and behind me we have the Sea of Galilee, which is topped off with the Mount Harmon.
And about the plants, many of them, or all of them, I don't know, many of them have a biblical reference, right?
Yes, in this garden we mark the ones with biblical reference that are directly mentioned in the Bible with white tags and black lettering. If it is inspired by the Bible, it often has a black tag with white lettering. I have included the addition of wildflowers from Israel and various other items from historical texts in Judaica.
Tell me that part of your job. Tell me about finding the plants and how you can fit them into a mention from the Bible, or maybe find it from the Bible and get it into the garden.
In the Bible, there's about 170 if you include both the Christian text and the Hebrew text. And in the Hebrew text, there is about 150 of those. Most of those are going to be native to the land of Israel with some alterations in translations.
So some of these plants can't stay out here year-round, right?
Absolutely not.
Where do they go?
They go to a greenhouse that we keep at Westview Cemetery, but we are building a greenhouse on site this winter.
When people visit here, what do you want them to get out of this garden?
I want them to be able to put themselves in a mind frame to understand that plants are part of your existence. Also, how delicate some things are within this environment. I've rebuilt this garden so that we could grow desert plants, and that does take a lot of work to make sure they stay alive.
Tell me a little bit about your transitioning of this garden, because since the last time I was here, it's a different garden.
Yes, when I arrived, some of the plant management wasn't quite there. We needed to open the canopy so we could get light in. At that point, I removed several of the trees. This entire area of shrubs was removed, and planted a new hedgerow in the back of a fastigated tree. That means it just grows upright. And I'm slowly adding trees back in as I find space and good conditions for them. Tell
me a little bit about your time out here, your quiet time in the garden, before someone comes or after someone leaves.
A lot of that time is either spent directly in the garden, but this week it is much too hot for that, and so I am studying. And I do study Jewish texts and various agricultural texts.
Tell me a couple plants that are in here that relate to the Bible that are interesting to you.
As far as the existing items, the tamarisk trees right here are one of my favorites. They have an interesting structure to them. They are considered the shade of the desert since they don't really provide much shade in their natural habitat.
And how are they mentioned in the Bible?
Not directly. Yes, they are only mentioned indirectly as the shade of the desert.
And tell me a little bit about the fun of transforming a garden, because it's your vision.
I like the limitations of the space. It's only 1/3 of an acre, but it is a botanical garden, and one would think that that doesn't give you a lot of room to be creative. Those boundaries are pretty much how you do it.
Talk a little bit about the educational component of this garden, which is pretty amazing.
Educational components, I have here the 5 species of Passover, and what those are the grains that are mentioned as being ceremonially significant in Judaism. So this entire plot would be part of the education system that we are representing here, and as time changes, more of these plots will reflect that.
And you get some kids in here from the school? Will they come?
Yes, they do.
When it's a little cooler?
Yes.
Oh boy. And I know this plant because I got a lot of it in my garden, and I've got grandkids that are little. I keep cutting it down.
I never have to buy seeds for that.
Yeah, no kidding. And horseradish, although I rarely see it flower, to tell you the truth. That's pretty cool.
Yes, it has tiny little white flowers.
Well, priest's crown, that's cool.
That is the alternative name for dandelions.
I know it.
Yep.
I'm a big dandelion fan. They're like the most nutritious plant on the planet.
And I'm pretty sure this one right here is from an original planting of the vegetable cultivar. When I look at it, it's different from a wild dandelion.
This is remarkable.
I started removing the shrubs right when we closed last fall and worked on it full time since.
How can people come visit?
Come into the garden and sign in. We are open Sunday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. with extended hours on Tuesday till 6 p.m. And we do hold events that we post online.
I really love that biblical garden. That's another one you should visit. And they have lots of tropical plants in there, plants they've got to store over the winter. But this one here is a hardy banana. And I am so happy to be growing a hardy banana because by the end of the summer, this thing is seriously going to be maybe 20 feet tall. You don't have to do anything. You just mulch it at the end of the year. We cut it down, mulch it at the end of the year. The deer don't like it, and it has a very unique, again, tropical look, and it makes babies. I've already promised this little one to a friend of mine, and I've given them away over the years. In fact, I think it was 2 seasons ago, we dug them out for my friend Jessica. This is a plant that I just love in the garden just for its unique shape and size. So when I broached the subject of watering to Matt, who does the videos, editing, and helps produce the show, he said, "Watering is boring." You think so? Yes, watering is boring, but there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. First thing is we want to do it in the morning, and we want to really soak these plants in. The reason we're doing it in the morning is we don't want the leaves to stay wet. We want them to be able to dry off. Now, of course, we can't always do it in the morning. I'm just trying to tell you the best times to do it. And that part about soaking it in is so important, not just sprinkling. Now, if you can't get out in the morning, do it when you can do it, but try and give the plants time to dry off. I've already started to see on the bottom of my tomato plants, I've started to see a little bit of septoria leaf spot and early blight, and that's just from a cool, wet spring. So when you're watering, take your time. A lot of times I will just put this water wand down onto the tomato plant for 10 minutes while I'm doing something else in the garden and move it from plant to plant. But your plants are just going to really enjoy having a decent amount of water. And it's one of the 3 keys to having a great garden is getting this stuff watered. But it is boring. Gardening is about failures and successes, and we have certainly seen a lot of failures in this garden, not only this year, but over the years. But I'm so happy with how these cucumbers are doing. I got these plants at Bedner's Farm and Greenhouse, and these nice, I got 3, 4, 5 cucumbers just starting right now, and there's just little ones coming on, and it's flowering like crazy, and I have pollinators doing their thing, and so for once, I'm showing you a success, and I'm happy. You know, we talked a few weeks ago with Eric about his cucumber issues, and I'm going to have another planting of cucumbers after this. Keep it going, because you never know when that cucumber beetle is going to do its thing, start nibbling, and you get bacteria wilt, and boom, they'll be gone. So one more planting of cucumbers, and nurseries still have plants that you can get. You should grow this. Really, this is another deer-resistant shrub that you should grow. This was a gift from a gardening friend of mine, and it's a type of spirea. This bloom is just finishing. This one is just starting. It's called Spirea billiardii. I think that's how you say it. And it's another shrub where you can just stick it in just about anywhere. You get these late blooms, beautiful pinkish blooms, and they'll just keep coming for weeks and weeks here during midsummer. This is a great plant.
So here's my question. First of all, I have one comment. Doug, I want to thank you for turning me on to Kelly Ogrodnik. She's helping me redesign my gardens. She has such a passion, just like you, for flowers and plants and beautifying this world. So here's my question. I have a small patch of ground in the back. It's a garden, my little garden, and it slopes up. It's not flat. So I'm thinking of putting a small, kind of a miniature tree, because my fence, first of all, I live in an association, I should say that. So my fence is 8 feet tall, so I can't do a 20-foot tree by 20-foot tree. What would you recommend?
Well, I'm glad it's working out with you and Kelly. I've known her for a long time. She's great at what she does. Now, for your trees, the first one that comes to mind is a Rose of Sharon called Sugar Tip. Now, this is a Rose of Sharon that doesn't have babies. It stays relatively short, maybe 15 feet. It's got beautiful variegated foliage and these wonderful double blossoms. But then I was also thinking maybe Japanese maple, maybe take some shrubs like a hydrangea or a rose and have them pruned into a tree shape. Those are just a few ideas, and I think you'll be okay there. I'd go for that sugar tip, but see what Kelly has to say. Now it's time for Talking Trees from the Davey Tree Expert Company. I'm joined again by Luke Werner. He's a district manager for the North Pittsburgh office of the Davey Tree Expert Company. And Luke, I'm going to pick your brain today about watering trees. Important, right?
Very, very. Yeah, it's especially important when we're having, weather events like we've had in Pittsburgh recently, where it has been in excess of 95 degrees for days on end.
And so, how do I know how much water to put on these type of trees, or do I work on my small trees first? When you look at a landscape, how do you decide where to use the water?
I always start with newly planted trees,
right,
or a lot of your youngest trees. They need to establish their root system as much as possible, and those first few years is extremely important in establishing that root system.
So take the hose out, let it run for 10 minutes, 20 minutes?
Well, yes, right? I mean, it varies a lot because, what's the sun exposure? So how much is going to evaporate off? What type of soil is it? If it's a sandy soil, water is going to move through it a lot quicker, where a clay is going to hold it more. So
okay,
there are options like with smaller trees, you can get things that assist with tree watering, like tree watering bags.
Right, like a gator they call it.
Exactly,
yeah.
Exactly. So you fill that up and that kind of percolates into the soil.
What time of the day should I water? Does it matter?
Morning.
Morning? Okay.
Yeah, morning's nice. So what happens is a lot of times people will put sprinklers out. So that can create some disease issues if done at the wrong time, because you're putting moisture onto the leaves and it's staying onto the leaves.
So let's talk about, if we're talking about watering, mulching, and we don't want to use the V word.
No, volcano mulching is horrible.
The worst thing possible,
Yeah.
and I ask this of arborists almost every time we talk about volcano mulching. What's it like when I'm in the truck with you and you drive by guys doing volcano mulching?
It's all the time, and it's at every single property, and it's frustrating sometimes because you'll talk to people about it. You'll do a root crown excavation while you're there, just because the tree's at a good point where you can make a difference, and then you drive by a year later, and it's piled up again. It's so aggravating, and it's so avoidable.
So let's talk about the right way to mulch.
Mm-hmm.
Not the volcano, more like a donut, right?
Exactly. So
how thick and how far out?
What I like to go out is to the drip line. So I recently planted some trees at my property, a hybrid elm, a swamp white oak, but they're about 2-inch caliper. So, about a wingspan, or your wingspan as an adult, is about what their drip line is. So I made my bed that large, gave it a few inches of fresh mulch, again, over the root zone, over the root ball, but not up against the stem. So it's nice because it regulates soil temperature, right? It mitigates, excessive temperature. It retains moisture. It helps so much with those things, but definitely don't want it around the stem. It can create a lot of basal rot issues.
What was the hybrid you put in?
I put a hybrid elm in.
And so it's okay to plant an elm? I mean, it's gonna, because it's a hybrid, it'll fight off the Dutch elm disease?
Yes, there's different varieties. There's a lot of different hybridized varieties of elms now. Some are smaller, some are based off of the Chinese elm, some are based off of the American, and they offer really good disease resistance.
All right,
so
great information.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Sure, thank you.
For more information about everything we talked about today, go to DougOster.com. Lots of great garden